Welcome to Conversations With. My name is Shaley Hoogendoorn and I live with bipolar 2 disorder. Sharing with others is healing, both individually and collectively. Sharing our stories will educate others, bring more understanding, shed more light, and smash more stigma. Our voices need to be heard. Our stories aren't over yet. This is bipolar. Hi everyone, welcome back to This is Bipolar Conversations With. I am still here with Hailey. If you have not watched the episode before this, you need to go and learn all about her. The episode is so amazing. She's taught me so many things that I don't know, which is very, very exciting. And she's just sharing some really, really powerful stuff. And she's super fun. We're now best friends, Shaley and Hailey. So yes. Get used to it.
It goes together.
Get used to it. If you don't already know me, I'm Shaley Hoogendoorn. I co-host this podcast. I am a mom, a wife, and I live with bipolar 2 disorder. Hailey, can you just tell us quickly who you are in case they didn't tune into the other one?
Yes, my name is Hailey Rose. I live with schizoaffective bipolar type, and I live with ADHD and body dysmorphic disorder. And I am a mental illness activist. I say mental illness because a lot of people talk about mental health. Very few people talk about mental illness, specifically severe mental illness. And so that's what I'm here to destigmatize.
I love that. I love that. It's true. It's true. Do you ever notice? I notice when I say, oh, I'm a mental health advocate, people are like, oh yeah, you're heroic. And then I'll be like, I have mental illness. Oh.
And then not only that, they're all like, oh, my friend has anxiety too. And you're like, no, I have this one. And they're like, oh, and you kind of see them take a little bit of a lean back, you know what I mean?
I always feel it out. I'll start with like, oh, I struggle with, depending on the person, I struggle with anxiety and depression. Then I'm like, oh, okay, they're okay. It's a mood disorder. And then I hit them with the B word, bipolar, right?
Yeah. But the bipolar is like, it came and it was like, I have bipolar, and it was already bad enough. And then, they're like, oh, it's schizoaffective. I'm like, oh, great. Now I have something with the word schizo in it. And the word bipolar. But it's so funny because it's always that line. And it is the word is scary, but it's like you hear them trying to be nice about it, and they'll go, like, I have bipolar disorder, and they'll go like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you're all like, you're freaking out inside, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
There's one, what is it? There's one person that we had that taught us to say, what did she say? Oh, she says, I don't know if you know this, but I have bipolar disorder. And I thought that's brilliant because when people are taken back, it actually gives them something to say like, oh, yes, I did know that. Or, oh, I didn't know that. And then they can kind of like pull themselves together.
I like that.
Yeah. I thought
I like
so
that. Yeah.
Because then
I'll find myself. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I interrupted.
No. I love it. I think I've been trying to do that, and it gives someone, because then I think, because sometimes you don't think, right? And then they say the wrong thing. And I'd rather you just not say I'd rather you say, I don't know what to say, than say something.
Yeah. Or say, oh, well, I'm not sure what that is, or I've kind of heard of that, or maybe
exactly.
Not. Yeah, no, definitely. And it's like, I've found myself kind of dancing around it. Like I'll kind of bring up the subject and be all like, yeah, there's this or that, or it's all like, and there's people who have this, and people kind of gauge how they feel about it. If there's somebody who's real negative about it, I'm just going to skip it.
Yeah.
If there's somebody who seems like okay with it, I'm gonna be like, and by the way, that person's me, like,
asking for a friend that's me.
Someone in my family has it. That person is me.
Exactly. But, I went through this phase where I was like, I have my tattoo and it says be still, but the I is the semicolon. Yeah.
I love that.
So my story's not over. So I told myself, okay, if you're going to get this, if people ask you, you're going to say, but I took that a bit too far because I decided at one point I joined this workout thing when I was manic. I was like, I'm going to be a boxer. And so, yeah, awesome,
such a
right?
manic thing to do.
So I'm 0% not a boxer, just FYI. So I went and I was doing like the training and the sit-ups or whatever. And so the girl asked me about my tattoo. She's like maybe 18, right? And maybe got this job to encourage people that might think they want to be a boxer one day. Took a weekend course, right?
Yeah.
So I'm doing
She's
these
got a
sit-ups and I'm
certificate from
like,
Udemy
it
on it.
means my story's not over yet. I have bipolar. And I'm just like, I laughed and I was like, she was just looked at me and she like went and trained someone else. I was
Oh
like,
my God.
okay, maybe I don't have to answer every time someone asks about
I did. Oh my God. Well, that's what it is though. It always ends up being this thing. And then you regret, you're like, should I have done that? I don't know if I should have done that. Like, blah, blah. Like I didn't get it. But it's hard because it's such a big part of your life.
Exactly.
And it does shape a lot about who you are and how you think. People are like, I'm not my illness. It's like, well, no, but kind of,
yeah,
you know, like, because
you can't pull it apart.
It's,
you
know,
can't
you can
pull it
separate your
apart.
body from your brain. Like, what do you say?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not my body. I'm my thoughts. I am my this. I am my
it's more
this.
complicated than that. Yeah.
No, I'm my personality. I'm my this, you know, and it's like, well, but those things are shaped by your mental illness a lot of the time, at least in part. So, you know, it's like, no, you are not your illness, but your illness does affect you.
Yeah.
In ways that you kind of have to just say, yes, they do. And so it's hard to, you know, when you talk to somebody a lot, you know, you start really talking and having conversations with someone, it's hard to kind of have to hide that. And it feels weird to have to kind of hide that. And it feels kind of dirty. It's like being in the closet.
Yeah.
And so, and so, you know, oh, and by the way, on the tattoo thing, I'm so glad that this didn't happen. But when I was manic, I was literally going to get these 2 huge roses on either one of my thighs. One that was this dripping, like poisonous blue one, and one that was this fiery, angry, manic one that was going to take up like my entire thigh. And I just couldn't afford it at the time. And I'm all like, okay, I'm going to get my money together and I'm going to do it. And I'm all like, holy crap, that's like a third of my body.
Thank goodness
like,
I didn't have the money.
Oh my God.
I'm not
cool
allowed
design,
to get the tattoos when I'm in an episode. It has to be when I'm not.
That's what I always tell people. I'm all like, you know, like, don't move, don't get married, don't make a big purchase, and don't get a tattoo.
And don't quit or like do a major
and don't
job
quit or start a major project or job. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, those are the 5 things that you don't do while you're manic. You can do whatever, but don't do those things. You know, don't deal with relationships.
And they may be good ideas for later, right? Like, it doesn't take away.
It's a good idea. It'll remain a good idea later. Yeah.
If it's still a good idea later, give her.
Then do it. Yeah, absolutely. And that was not.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's not on my body.
Yeah. I'm glad.
It's just a little big.
Maybe just get a poster of your 2 roses.
Yeah,
maybe
not on your body or something. Yeah, or something like that, you know. But
I love it.
Yeah. And I actually did that oversharing thing too, you know, like with the, you know, because I was talking about, you know, my brain's been doing this, but with my physical therapist, she's sitting there, she's got my foot over her shoulder and she's kind of like stretching me out and everything. And I finally was like, you know, because blah, 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 I was like, I have something called schizoaffective bipolar disorder. And so it mainly, you know, messes with my brain and makes it foggy and stuff. I was talking about, you know, like why I was chronically late on top of having ADHD. And she was one of the ones that was like, oh, okay.
She's pushing her leg.
She's like doing my leg, you know, like, you know, getting my hip, and she's like, oh, okay, okay. And then she left to go talk to another one of the physical therapists, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's telling him, oh my God, they don't want to work with me. And she came back, and again, I tend to have a lot of paranoia, so I was kind of trying to laugh it off, like, did you tell them that I have it? Do you guys think I'm a freak? Like, seriously, do you guys think I'm a freak? You know, like, and she's like, oh no, I was looking at baby pictures, his wife just had a baby and blah blah blah. I'm all like, okay.
It's like that
and then I didn't believe her, but I was just, you know, I was all like, I have to give her the benefit of the doubt, you know. It's just like,
it's like that meme, like, not everybody's thinking about you. Or I was telling my kids, especially because the middle school, high school now, they're very self-conscious. And I'm like, I can guarantee you they're probably thinking about themselves.
Oh God. Right? Yeah. Are you thinking about you? They're also probably thinking about them. No, yeah, that was the thing that got me through a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, then whenever that happens with me, that little soundbite pops into my head where it's this guy going, so maybe we don't have to say just everything that pops into our heads. Just like, you know, like, it's like, you know,
like, right, genius.
Dang it. I did it, you know. It's just like, you know, but I'm also sitting there going, I want to try to not be scared to say it.
Yes.
you know, like,
There's a
and
balance, right?
I
Yeah,
have to try and be brave to say it, because if I'm going to say it online and tell people to not be scared,
exactly
I have
that.
to not be scared, you know, and I can't, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And that'll actually bring us into what I really want to talk about. I want to
Yes.
talk about your advocacy, and I want to talk about your page. And I wanted to say it, but I think there's dots in it. So I think you should say what it is for our listeners.
My
You
page,
handle.
the name of it. Oh yes,
Yes.
it's mind.over.mood.
Yes. And we'll put it in the show notes. You'll find her and
Yeah.
go like everything and watch everything, because it's
If you enjoy it.
phenomenal. I
Oh,
love it.
thank
And I
you.
love how you don't shy away from, the hard things, but yet you're funny. It's really good. And
Well, thank
you're
you.
very inspiring to get to do the reels. So not only are you doing like this amazing actual creative work, it like has so
Thank
much
you.
depth and meaning. And I'm just like, oh, someone else thinks that, and such. So if you're listening, run, don't walk. Go follow
Aw,
Hailey, go watch videos. She's on TikTok and Instagram,
it's
right?
the same handle for both. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
say hi if you want. Send me a DM. I try to answer them.
yeah. That would be awesome if you have any questions for her, or you could ask me and I can ask her as well. But yeah, tell us about, how did that start? How did your advocacy start? How did your Instagram account start? Let us know.
So it started during a manic episode. Um
Same, our whole
and
podcast.
yes, and that's why I say, you know, there are happy accidents out of things that are not good, you know.
Mhm.
um but before that, I had mentioned in the last episode that I went through a really deep psychotic depression for about a year and a half, where every single day I was either crying or panicking or both. I got fired from 3 different jobs because nobody wants to pay you to spend a half an hour a day crying in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't blame them. Um, it
Fair.
sucked, but I don't blame them. You know, but it was just this absolute fire. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't, you know, I had to kind of learn how to handle it, how to be nice to myself about it. And once I started kind of coming out of it, I started having a lot to say. And I was like, I'm going to write a book. And so I
Mhm.
started writing all of this different stuff down, all of these lessons I kind of learned, all of these things that I kind of figured out, or at least, you know, had made my time, had
Yeah.
made it, how I healed, how it was easier to heal, how it was, you know, that I knew what these certain things felt like. And I have ADHD, so I did not have the patience to sit down and write that entire book, but I still had a lot to say. And so I
Yeah.
thought to myself, you know, I'm gonna make an advocacy page, because I'd done social media stuff before where I'd actually been quite, you know, decently successful at it with other projects. But so I kind of knew what to do. But if you look back at my very, very first posts, if you have the wherewithal to scroll that much, you'll see all of these kind of text posts, just text posts, and these
Yeah.
inspirational quotes and things like that, and then an explanation underneath
Right.
of the point of that post. And I always thought that was really important, because there's a lot of people that put just these little like isms in
Yes.
posts, like, you know, like
Yes.
you know, you are, you know, what you say you are, something, I don't know, you know, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
And
Good
so I thought, well,
vibes
that's not
only.
right. Or I'll like, you know, like hang in there, buddy, or whatever. Like, and that doesn't mean anything unless you can actually go into it. And so I would go into it in the captions, and I still do that today
Mhm.
with a lot of my posts, because I think that that's where you can really get the meat of a message.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have time to put it in the actual
Yeah.
post
Same.
itself. And
That's what
some
we,
people
I
won't
love
read
that.
it, but some people will. And those who read it, I'm actually surprised that so many people do read it. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
But because that's the main point. But then I was like, I want to just say stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I want
Yeah.
to actually say stuff. And so I started showing my face a bit, and I started, you know, I started making stuff, and then I realized, oh, well, reels or whatever everyone pays attention to. So I started making those, but I wanted to still include informational text posts and stuff. And it just kind of built from there. And it was because my whole thing was twofold. One, I wanted people to know that they, well, threefold. One, I wanted people to know they weren't alone. Two,
Yes.
I wanted the public to know that we were just people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
because
Yes.
if you can
Yes.
look at me and see a normal person for the most part, like, great, because we are all around you. We should have some kind of secret handshake because we can't even tell each other. From
Totally should.
Well, neurotypical people, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of thing. Like we can't, you know, like we're everywhere. And if you're saying something, we can probably hear you, you know? And then the third thing was I wanted people to, you know, be informed of the things that I had learned. I wanted to pass on to other people, because if I was on fire, I knew that there were other people that were on fire too. And if I managed to put myself out, and if I can hand a bucket of water to somebody who's behind me, who's on fire, then that's what I'm going to do. Then it makes all of that suffering worth it. I'm okay to suffer if it means that I can use that to help other people. That's fine. I'm fine with that, you know? And so that's kind of been what I've continued to do, because otherwise it's like I can't sit here and say, oh well, I'm not, you know, this is all for nothing. Like I can't accept that. You know, I got to make it so that it means something, you know.
I love that.
So yeah, so that's where the page came from.
Basically. Yeah. It's, we have so much in common that way. Those are exactly, we want people to feel less alone. We also want to educate. I hope for your page and for our podcast and everything, that it isn't just, you know, neuroatypical people like us or people with mental health disorders. I hope that there's other people listening, what we call neurotypical.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's why I love about the reels, because people get exposed who weren't like part of that page before. And that's another thing. And I, especially when I was depressed and couldn't leave the house anyway, and then when I was manic again, and you know, I still was just kind of in my house because that's just how I've grown to be. But I started obsessively studying psychology. I started listening to every lecture from every professor, reading every book. I got my hands on a copy of the DSM-5, read through all that kind of stuff, started researching everything. I read all the studies, all the literature. I started watching every single video. I started listening to interviews with people who had all kinds of disorders, not just mine, ones that are totally not even related to mine. And I was just fascinated. So I was able to learn about so many disorders in depth. Now, I'm not going to talk about those disorders on my page because I feel like since I don't experience them, I'm not the person to be educating people about them. True. But I do know them. And man, I was saying before, I think even before we started recording, I have met so many people with so many different life experiences and disorders and things like that. I'm friends with people that I think a lot of people have never been friends with knowingly. You know,
same. What I mean? And they're awesome.
Disorders and stuff. And they're very cool. They're interesting. They're just completely different minds. You'd be amazed how different the human mind can be from one person to another. I mean, really, you know. And so that's, you know, that's kind of what I became obsessed with, you know, and I'm lucky because it wasn't just a 3-week obsession. It's been going on for over a year now. And
let me tell you, when Hailey says obsession, when we talk about it, we're actually talking about like clinical, like we get full on
hyperfixation
into it. It isn't like the influencer who's obsessed with the face cream. We're like in there.
Or like, I'm obsessed with this food. It's so good. I want it. No. It's like all day, every day. I'm living, sleeping, eating, and breathing. This kind of stuff. I have to force myself to stop. To go and experience other things.
I'm really, that's really hard on the internet right now, just using mental health disorders as adjectives. I recently had a message from someone that asked me, is this offensive? And what would you do?
I get asked that sometimes.
And it was a video of, and bless her heart, I am not saying like I have made mistakes. I get it. But the woman had jean shorts on, and one was like folded up and then one was longer and wrinkly. And she was talking about how her jean shorts were bipolar because they couldn't.
Oh man, I was hoping you were going to say that. Oh my God.
I
hate that.
So, but I was like, that's so bad. So I've kind of, even just because we've talked about before in the other episode, and one of the symptoms can be fully body engaged rage. So I actually have a note in my phone that has like, hey, like something like, I know you probably didn't mean this, but just so you know, people that have bipolar disorder, this is a serious illness. And there are so many of us. I know you wouldn't want to hurt one of your followers by da 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 da. And usually, like, I kind of go with, I come with a good heart kind of thing, right?
Right. And then sometimes people are defensive or they don't
Yeah.
care or whatever. But then
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, oh, okay. But a lot of
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
people just
And
get embarrassed and they
recently,
get defensive.
yeah. And recently I found kind of most people, if you do it a certain way, have been really, really open and such. But I think like one, talking about it one at a time, and you can kind of tell who you have to want to put it on their page. But sometimes I'm like, oh, this is probably going to embarrass them. So maybe I'll do a DM or whatever.
Or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's very interesting that you're bringing that up, because that's actually something that I have railed against the not people on the internet, but the internet
Yeah.
about, like social media giants and stuff like that, because social media people, the actual social media platforms are the number one stigmatizers of people with mental illness. People on the pages and stuff, like, they may do something, but it's just one person. The actual people, I don't know if, again, I'm not assuming that you've memorized my whole page and catalog and stuff, but there was a while back where I got offered to get paid to make my reels by Instagram. And they gave me this whole thing. I set up my bank account with them. They acted like it was going to be a thing. And I was thinking, oh, great, because I get a lot of viewership. This is going to be awesome,
Yeah.
blah,
And
blah.
you do a lot of work.
I do. I make a lot of stuff. And then all of a sudden, right when I hit monetize on my first reel, they said, oh, you're not eligible for monetization permanently. I said, why not? And I looked at it and it said, because my content violates their terms for monetization. And I was like, well, that's weird, because it was just a funny little thing about mental illness. And I wasn't using like the depression hashtag or whatever, and it said, I realized that mental illness falls under the category of tragedy and conflict, as well as physical illness, by the way. So if you're talking about either of those things, you are not considered monetizable. You are not advertiser friendly. And I was so mad. And I actually worked my booty off and made this entire kind of satirical, like dissing video. And again, I don't know if you remember it, but it was the one with this like lady, and she was kind of in a cloud, little Instagram cloud or whatever. And like, there was me, and I gave her this post to post up, and she's like, great. And she ripped it up and threw it over her shoulder and everything. And she presented all her little kind of dancing people who were like the influencers who were happy and they were doing really well. And like, I actually got this like censored thing on my face, and I made that whole post, and people seemed to really like it. And then after that, I didn't get a single net gain follower for 2 months. To this day, this was 2 months ago. And I'm like, that's interesting.
And are they not showing it to people?
I'm not getting exposed to people now.
So people say this thing that shadow ban doesn't exist, but we had something, because
it does.
We noticed we were like overnight, we were, getting large amount of followers. And I mean, it isn't about being famous. Like, honestly,
no,
I don't want to be bipolar famous, right?
Right. Why would I want to be famous for something?
Yeah, but we know our message is getting out there. Also, we work really hard. Yeah. So we had 4 months where it was like showing it to like 50 people, and it used to show it to like 9,000. And I don't know, I can't bring it down to a specific post or anything.
No,
and
but they didn't matter. People.
Yeah, it didn't matter what we did. It didn't matter what we did. We just we had to like basically wait it out. But it was so hard.
And that was the thing. Like, and it's interesting because there's two things, and I was always confused, but the hashtag bipolar is not banned. The hashtag bipolar disorder is. First of all, they categorize bipolar disorder as an eating disorder, which is annoying. And number two, I thought, well, why isn't bipolar banned? And I thought, because people use it as an adjective. People use it because the disorder is banned, but the adjective is not. So if somebody wants to show their genes and say my genes are hashtag bipolar, that's okay. If you or I want to go on and say something about bipolar disorder, not okay.
I'm gonna check our hashtags.
Yeah,
I bet you we use bipolar disorder, maybe that's
It's
it.
weird. There's a lot of mental health hashtags that are shadow banned and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And it's so
ridiculous.
hard when you use, because I don't know about you, but we don't have, just because it's neither of our wheelhouses, and Julie and I, my co-host, to make a website. We have the podcast gives you a website, your platform. So we don't actually, it's so freaky because we don't actually own, like if like Instagram has so much power over us because we use
Oh
them,
yeah, and there's nowhere to call, there's no one to email, there's no one to talk to. Like, did
Yeah.
this help? No. Oh well, like they don't, they
Yeah,
don't care.
I know. I started, and we talk both about with our disorders about paranoia. So I've started
Oh my God,
like
yeah.
cut and pasting stuff because I'm like, well, this is like microblogging as well. All the things, like eventually maybe someone could put it into a book, or like maybe I can have,
Yeah.
but it'll be all gone. That's one of my like a huge.
They've made it way harder with the hashtag game. They're all like, oh, don't use too many, big broad hashtags like, hustle or something. And, don't put them all here because they'll start seeming spammy and this and that. And just like, can you not keep making it so hard?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we're grateful that this is out there, but yeah, come on. Hopefully they don't get mad at us for this.
Oh God.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you did. But yeah,
I'm not sorry.
She's not sorry. Okay.
I'm angry.
I know. Same. I'm just like, oh, and meanwhile, like, yeah, this is,
You're beholden.
We both believe this is very important messaging to get out there, but it's what sells, right? It's what sells. I would love to talk about two things, because I could just chit chat with you forever, since I told everybody we're best friends. I would love to talk about the body dysmorphia. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. What does that look like in your life? What is the diagnosis? Tell us about that.
So this is something that it's one of those things where people think it's a lot more common than it is. Body dysmorphia. You are in the right body, but there is a focus place or multiple focus places that you are to an extreme believe are wrong or bad, so disfigured or so ugly or so unviewable that you can't really handle it, right? So it's actually something they've actually been able to scientifically measure, like with people with BDD. They show them pictures of random people, and their eyes will dart to specific places on that person that go with the places that they struggle with, and their eye movements when they're observing people are different than the eye movements of people who do not have that. And it's one of those things, it's a form of OCD in the way that it's and it's obsession and compulsion. And it's one of those things where, even with OCD, people are like, oh, I have to have everything neat, so I totally am OCD about this. And it's like, no,
you're not.
OCD is something different. It doesn't even have anything to do with cleaning a lot of the time. And it's one of those things. There's always going to be something that people don't really like about their appearance. They flip on, they get out of the shower and they're like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like they don't like that thing. They're way too hard on themselves. Somebody just lost a bunch of weight and they still see, the fat version of themselves, even though they logically know they're thin, and I get that. And that's not good either. You should love your body. You should love how you look. You should be comfortable in your own skin. If you are healthy, you have every reason to celebrate your body, right? And because that's the best you can ask of your body. And one of the biggest examples you might see of people who have a kind of BDD would be people who suffer with eating disorders like anorexia, like not binge eating, but like anorexia or bulimia, people who are literally convinced that they are still too fat, even when they are dangerously underweight, things like that. They will actually look in the mirror and see this almost delusion, this hallucination of themselves looking a way that they don't look. Wow. Right. And maybe you take either a minor flaw or a perceived flaw that doesn't even exist, and you see it as so exaggerated that you can't face the public without kind of hiding it or somehow, or trying to fix it all the time. And it's the obsession where you are constantly reminded of it. You know what I mean? And you're constantly thinking about it. Like I timed myself one time when it was at its absolute least managed, and it popped into my mind about every 15 minutes of every day.
Wow.
No matter what, every day,
Wow.
my birthday, every day, every day, every day, every day.
And how does
And it
that
was just
present for you?
cycle.
Like what kinds of thoughts do you have? Or
Well,
how do you see yourself? How does that manifest for you?
well, the thing is, it's like, so for me, it's two things. When I've had it since I was probably 11 years old, because I also had eating disorders. That I mean, you always kind of have them, but you're in remission for them, and I'm in remission at this point, so it's okay. But it was my stomach. I could never show my stomach, ever, 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 even when there was, I guess, nothing wrong with it for what other people were saying. But I just saw this big, blobby, horrible thing coming out, and I couldn't see anything else, even when it was pretty much flat. I couldn't see anything else. And I was so embarrassed of it that I would constantly, like, I'd hold pillows over me when I sat down. I would never take a photo below my chest. I would never take full body videos or anything like that. God, no. I would never wear a bikini. Forget that. You know, even when I was very much okay, looking back when I was like 19 years old, 18 years old, I was fine. But I was like, nope. You know, and it was this constant, I was always comparing myself to other girls, you know, who seemed to be able to manage that. And like, I couldn't, I believed that everyone who looked at me, if you were to say, oh, what, you know, how does she look? Oh, she's this, she's that. She's got kind of a belly though. You know, like everyone thought that of me. I was convinced that everyone thought that of me. And not only that, but they thought less of me because of that. And I would actually see that. And here's where it gets strange, because you can have a better or worse day with it. So you may see something completely different in the mirror one day to the next. And so you're like, what is this? It's very weird. And the other set of people, and this is what's kind of sad, the other set of people who you may see who likely have BDD are those people who have lots and lots of plastic surgery, like especially in their face. So you see people, even when they're not like older, you know what I mean? Like when you're looking at like a 20 or 30 something and you're like, why do you look like Joan Rivers? You know, like, and they just look real stretched out with these big things. They probably have BDD. Because a lot of people, and the problem is a lot of people with BDD will turn to plastic surgery to try and fix what they see in the mirror. And it might satisfy it for a little while, but inevitably it always comes back. So then they got to get more. And then they got to get more. And again, I've gotten to a point, because now it's my face, right? Now it's my face. And I've had to have a lot of times where I put a sticky note over my face if I'm on Zoom. Like right now, I'm okay. I'm trying to not worry as much about that. I've got the touch up on a lot, like really high, but have an anxiety attack. I couldn't do it. I'd be panicking, and I wouldn't be able to listen to anything you're saying, because I'd be sitting there staring at myself. And the compulsion comes in, either getting those plastic surgeries or with your eating habits, or you start picking at your hot spot where you have the compulsion. Every time I caught my reflection in the mirror, I'd have a mini little panic. My breath would come out of me, and I'd sit there and I'd have to start pinching and pulling at my face to fix it so that I could see it looking correct. Before I had to let
and
my
is
face
that
go
the
and walk
difference?
away.
Because I know a lot of people will say, oh yeah, well, I feel that way. The difference is the severity for the disorder, right?
The severity, because I'll put it this way. Like I said, everybody has these things they don't like about themselves, and they may deeply dislike it. I could not go past a reflective surface without fixing my face in the car. And I don't even mean a mirror. I'm talking about a car mirror. I'm talking about a reflective window. I'm talking about a shiny microwave. I'm talking about anything.
So it
water,
affects every part of your life.
Every part of me. I can't sit at certain angles to the light when I'm sitting somewhere and I can see my reflection, because it will shine on me in the wrong way and I can't handle it. I will, everything I do, the way that I conduct myself, like in my habits, all revolves around that. I have to sleep with my pillow in an uncomfortable way. I have not slept comfortably on a pillow
Because
for
of you worried
probably
about wrinkles?
4 years.
Wow.
4 or 5 years, because that's when that part started happening. I have not had a sunburn in almost 10 years.
Wow.
On purpose, I wear SPF like 50 to 70 to 100 every time I go out anywhere. I wear these big goofy hats. I do not sit in the sun. I will move my chair to get away from the sun. And if I am sitting in the sun, I will start feeling my skin frying and it will feel horrible and I can't handle it. Every piece of lighting in my house caters to me not having to see that. All the lighting in my house, the way the furniture is in my house, the way the mirrors are in my house, the bathroom. Never use overhead lighting. There is no overhead lighting that is in use in my house, period. Like that's it, because I can't handle it. It gives me this anxiety attack, and it's not vanity. It looks, oh well, you're just really vain. It's not vanity, because vanity means that you see that you can look this way, and so you want to look really pretty. When you have this, you want to not look like that.
Right.
So there's a big difference, and it's
what
like,
you
and
see.
it's this, and it's this absolute hell. It tortures you all day, every day, and you freak out. And it's like, I couldn't even show people my like face without some kind of filter on it for a long time, without actually having this like thing. I couldn't handle it, and it's just, it doesn't leave you alone.
Yeah. It's
ever.
not just
It
a
never
little
leaves you
worry,
alone.
it like takes over.
It
How
takes over, and you think of it all
powerful
day.
now that you do videos, right? Like
I've
how
used
is
a
that,
filter
Hailey?
so much.
Did you?
I use a filter all the time.
Yeah.
There's a few videos where I have not used a filter, but they are few and far between, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's embarrassing, but I thought, if I'm going to wait until I've had enough therapy to get over this, to start making videos, I'm not going to do it. I have to just do it. And so it's like, and I'm very open. Yes, I use filters. This is why.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that you need to use a filter. I shouldn't have to use a filter, but
because you don't see it in other people.
Issue.
You don't see it in other people. It's yourself, right?
It is absolutely.
Yeah.
It is absolutely.
Well, that's like,
myself. And it's like,
sorry.
I was saying, no, you're good. I was just going to say, I got to a point, and I kind of still am at this point where it's like, and not so much now, but definitely before, it's like, if I had my own, if it was my money, and I can't have it, I can't keep a job right now. So the money is basically my husband's. I make very, very little. But if it was my money and I was single, I would rather get plastic surgery than pay for rent or food for a month.
Yeah.
I would rather, sit at my mom's house, get kicked out of my house, and live on ramen if I could have that plastic surgery, or make payments I couldn't afford. I'd rather not have a car. So it's like, when we say it's extreme, it's extreme.
Yeah.
And you see these poor people with plastic surgery getting made fun of left, right, and center. But honestly, that's probably what's wrong with them. They probably think they look worse than anybody else thinks they look. And it never fixes it. And it's this constant black hole of need to not look that way, because you go out and you see people looking at the things that you think they're looking at, which they're not looking at. And you think that they devalue you. You think that they think, oh, they're not going to be as kind to me because I look like that. They're not going to be as willing to help me if I'm like that. They're going to judge me. They're going to think that I'm not as good of a person or as worthy of a person. And so it gets to this weird, like, and so it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's more than just like, oh, I don't really like my stomach. You can go about your day and not think about your stomach. When you have BDD, you can't do that.
So
right
let's
now I have
be
all the light in a very
everybody.
specific way. Right. If
let's be kind about plastic surgery and all of those
when
things.
You see
I
that,
think I'll think about that.
You look at them and go, oh, honey, something's wrong. Your heart's probably hurting right now. And that's usually the case.
And you mean major, because I know like a bunch, and I thought I never would, but I guess because I'm on video all the time, and because of ageism, and because of the
Changes
patriarchy
is
and all the
awful,
things.
especially for women. Yeah.
Yeah. I've thought I would have made fun of people before, and I've thought, and I'm not claiming body dysmorphia, but just saying you're talking about more extreme things, because now I kind of have thought of it about, just because it's aging is hard in this society,
It's hard,
right?
especially when you're a woman and so much value is placed on you,
so
on
much
your
value.
appearance, you know, and it's this constant message of, you know, and it's the same thing with, you know, when you become a mom, now you're that one with kids, and that's, you know, for, you know, and it's like, why do we do that? That's a precious thing.
Yeah.
You know, the people who have lived beyond being that kind of like 18, 19 have been lucky enough to grow and become that. And these are things that, you know, and it's, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, and I think it's especially with women, men, when they age to a certain point, and then they're just that fogey old man, and they get the woman treatment.
But they get to be a silver fox, right?
Right. Or they get to be the important CEO.
Yeah.
Or,
meanwhile, like, I'm paying all this money to get rid of my silver fox.
I'm sitting here, I've got like 2 hairs, and I'm like, you know, like I'm like sitting there, like flipping, like, okay, I took like a Sharpie one time and like colored it in.
From here to here is spray. Just FYI. Here
it looks beautiful. I would never know, but you know what? I bet you look beautiful with the silver as well. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like we should be okay. There's nothing wrong.
And I want to be, older. And I consider myself like feminist, empowered, but then I'm like, feminist is about choosing. So this is what I'm choosing right now. No, but I wish I didn't. It's totally feel fine. Like
it's this feeling, because it's like, you know, and that's the thing that scares me the most, like with my face and everything, especially because, you know, people, there's this constant hammered in message of, oh, well, you only get what you get. Your life has only gone so well because you're not ugly, right? Or because you're this, or because you're young,
fit into
because you're a young
idea.
Girl or whatever. And so it's like, oh, okay, so nothing is because of my own merit. Everything is because of how I look. So what happens when I'm not creative like and
kind and like, talented? And
exactly. And you know, people don't realize what they do, and they say stuff like that. They think they're just making fun of people who, you know, aren't ugly, you know, just like, oh, well, screw you because you're this or that. But it's like, you don't realize what you're doing to that person. You're devaluing them as a human being, you know, like, and it's true, because they put out this message of, you know, oh, well, you know, they make women feel invisible as time goes on. And it's like, I'm already sitting here seeing that and feeling that and freaking out. And that shouldn't be the case. You know, but it is. And so stuff like that, this ends up getting really, really weird. And then when women do go overboard trying to fix it because they're scared,
then you get judged
them for that too.
You're like walking this
like,
line.
Oh, you must be shallow. No, I'm not shallow. I just don't want you to treat me like I'm not here.
Like, let's just not comment on each other's bodies.
Right. Let's not devalue people because they had committed the crime of being here longer than you know, other people.
Exactly. I love the posts that I always collect them and save them. The post that says non-appearance compliments, because I even notice it with little girls and little boys, because I'm trying to be more gender neutral and be more positive.
Comment on more important things.
I want to ask girls, what are you reading? What are you excited about? Not oh, it's a pretty dress, but I find something like it happens automatically. It's like we're trained. I'm hoping.
And they're the most precious compliments anyway. Like when someone comes and says, you have just the most creative mind, or when someone says you have all the best ideas, or you are the fun. Okay. I was going to say funniest, not the F word, by the way. But they
love it.
It sounds weird and it sounds patronizing and everything, but I enjoyed it. The best compliment I ever got was this stranger on the internet when I did a video, and it was this guy, and he said, wow, for the first time I have found a genuinely funny woman. And it was, look, it sounds bad, but I have a hard time laughing at female comedians. I don't know why. It's just
patriarchy.
I don't know what it is about. Right. It's like, here's my period. You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, that's, you know, whatever, you know, but it's like, I don't know what it is. It's just, it's really hard, I think, for women to break out of their shell and be okay to look goofy.
Because it's not always, we're not always nice.
Right. Or like not be sexy, not be cute, you know, and then not be gross. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you're not being sexy, you're being gross. Like there's a line. You can just be goofy, you know? And so for someone to sit there and say, I found a genuinely funny woman, I'm all like, wow, thank
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? Like that was really
Yeah.
cool because a
You're
lot of
like,
people
that's a
are
terrible
the
thing to
female
say, but
comedians.
such a compliment.
It really was. It really was because it was genuine.
Yeah.
Even though it sounded bad, it was genuine. And I was all
Yeah.
like, that's okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it was a totally non-appearance related
Yeah.
compliment. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, you know, like this
Yeah.
was amazing. So it's, yeah.
Speaking
And
of
so
comedians, I found someone online community. You guys are the best. Her
you know,
name's
I wish they
Taylor
could all be in person.
Thomason, and she has bipolar disorder. And not only does she have bipolar disorder as a comedian, she does some parts about it. And you know how it can, she rides the line well. She doesn't like, she can make fun or whatever, but doesn't make you, if you have bipolar, walk away feeling like crap, right?
That's a big
And
thing.
I really, so then she came to Vancouver and we went, and it just reminded me of like representation, because I hadn't ever heard a comedian that actually had a disorder making fun of it, but
Talking
in a
about
way it's always people making fun of us, right?
I always get that. Yeah. A lot of people are always like, well, how do you know the line? How do you know,
Mhm.
when you're making these jokes about this, when you've crossed the line? I said, well, I haven't crossed the line because that line is, you come at it with lived experience, and you
Lived
come at it with
experience, yeah.
love for the people, disdain for the disorder. Because
Yes,
I'm making fun of the disorder, I'm not making fun of the
that's
people.
so good. Say that again.
You know what I
Love
mean?
for
I'm
the
people,
people.
love for the people, disdain for the disorder. I'm
Yes.
not making fun of the people. And by the way, if I ever see anybody making fun of people with these mental illnesses, I will be on them like white on rice. I will be down there. Right.
Yeah.
There's topics that end up being very sensitive to talk about.
Yeah,
I mean, on the
yeah.
one
But
hand,
it's like when you
I feel
come
like
from lived experience, it's, yeah, I love.
when you're talking about stuff with pain, and even so, I think there's a way to deliver certain things where, again, you're not picking out a specific person, but you're just making a joke on the subject or whatever. You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, but it's like, for me, it's like, I'm going to make fun of the thing that hurts us, because
Mm.
screw that thing. It's hurting us. We
It's like
need to
taking the
laugh about
power
it
back.
together. Yes, exactly. Like, screw that thing. It's hurting us. And that thing deserves to be made fun of. And also, if we can learn to laugh at these experiences that are so painful, like, they're not as painful anymore.
Yeah.
And when you see other people laughing, you're like, oh, cool. It's not just me.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And we're not, just so people know, like when it's actually happening, we're not laughing in the moment. It's
Oh
almost
God,
like
no.
that idea of speaking, not speaking from your wound, but speaking a little bit more from a scar. They're very fresh scars because they
Yes.
happen all the time. But
Right.
just so if you're someone that's really, really down and thinking that we're telling you to laugh, we're like, no, we can talk about things a little bit when it's not so
Right.
fresh.
Exactly. And when you're going through it, you're going through it. But when you're not, it's all like, hey guys, remember when that happens? How dumb
Yeah.
is that? And everybody starts laughing because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Oh, yes. I just love your perspective. I
thank
actually
you.
love your brain. I love your brain. Your
Well,
brain is
thank you.
awesome.
Thank
Yes.
you. So is yours. I've been having such a good energy from you.
That's awesome. I would love to. We have been talking and could all the time. And I really would like to do some stuff online together, like collab in our Instagram. I think it
Absolutely.
would
That
be
would be
so
fun.
fun. Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be fun.
It'd be so fun. But I'm curious, what, as we wrap up, I would love to hear, you said that compliment was something that was really, really beautiful to you, but what is some of the things, because I can imagine that you get beautiful messages online because you're reaching so many people. What's some of the one of or some of the kindest things that people have said to you?
I mean, there have just been a lot of messages that have had kind of the same theme or whatever. There have been people who have trusted me to be, and they were strangers, so it was even more so, but they've been someone who trusted me to come to when they were feeling suicidal,
Yeah.
or when there was something very, very wrong going on, and I've been able to talk to them. There was one in particular, and I couldn't sleep because I was manic, but but it was this person, it was this guy in India, so it was a normal hour for him, and he was talking with me, and I talked with him for hours in the middle of the night for me. And I talked to him because he was going through the same life crisis that I had gone through that led me to that deep psychotic depression that I went through, that panic attack that hit. And I thought, this is truly the moment where I can hand a bucket of water to someone who was on fire, just like me. And I gave him the perspective because he wasn't becoming all these things that he and everyone around him were expecting him to become, and it was destroying him. And that's what destroyed me. And it took me a long time to learn that there is more to us as human beings than the hobbies we have, than the plans we have, than the goals we make, than the people we're around. And that a huge lesson for me was that, you know, you don't have to do anything in life. You don't have to do anything. If you do nothing except kind of, you know, enjoy your life, you've won. The universe isn't expecting anything of you. People are like, what's the purpose of life? You make the purpose of life.
Showing us.
What is, yeah, exactly. What is the purpose of it? What am I supposed to do? Whatever you want. Yeah. And whenever you really embrace that, there is no more disappointment. There is no more kind of feeling of judgment, self-judgment and failure, which is huge for so many people. And that, when I say that broke me, you know, like I died. There was a piece of me that died, and I spent a year and a half grieving it. But I got to pass him in one night the lessons that took me a year and a half to learn. And out of it, you know, saying, okay, I think I get it, you know, like blah blah blah, thank you so much. And that touched me so much. That, and there was one other, which is a shorter one, but there was, and this one actually would actually make me cry, so I'm going to try not to. But this one, there was a friend of mine whose daughter was freshly diagnosed with ADHD, and this girl was like 6 or 7. I think she's probably 7, and she didn't understand why she was different. And why things were hard for her. And she felt the same way I did when I was a kid. And I had the opportunity to record a video message for her, and I did my best not to cry. Yeah. But the opportunity to get to say something to a child that I wish was said to me.
Yes. Sorry. Don't be sorry. This is a cry space.
The opportunity to say something to a child to help them not feel the way that I felt. So what's the most wonderful thing? It's the most wonderful gift I could have ever been given, because people are like, oh, you know, that must seem so bad. The schizophrenia part seems so bad. The bipolar seems so bad. I said, you know what? And I've told so many people this. If I could get rid of one of my disorders and one set of symptoms, it wouldn't be the schizophrenia stuff. It wouldn't be the bipolar stuff. Those are bad. It wouldn't be the BDD. That's bad. It would be the ADHD. A million times, because that is all day, every day. It screws with your whole life, and it never, ever, ever leaves you alone, not for a second. Wow. So if I could get rid of any of that, it would be that. And so to sit and see that little girl who was feeling bad and didn't understand, and be able to tell her all the things that I wish I could have been told, that was just the best gift. It was a highlight of having this entire project, really. Wow. Being able to do that for her, and having her react with a big smile and saying thank you. And
you probably changed her life. Honestly, it's life-changing work. And I know the work that you're doing online is changing lives and saving lives. I really believe it. I can imagine. I can imagine the messages that you get. We get some messages, and I can imagine the messages, because I know that you comfort me, and I know that I go to your page when I need to laugh about the hard things, but also, you know, you have some really serious, poignant videos too. I'm just always impressed and inspired by your work. And I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It was a really big treat, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
And we're going to be friends forever online.
Absolutely. You message me, don't be a stranger, as they say around here.
Exactly. So for our listeners, just know we are with you, we see you, and our DMs are open. Depending on how we're feeling, it might take us a while to get back to you, but I don't know. I know that Hailey has always gotten back to me.
Yeah. No account is too small.
Exactly. So. We are here for the one. And I love that little girl was so healing. And I always say, that when people thank us, I'm like, no, thank you. This has been healing for me, right? It's like doing this work. Yeah,
absolutely. It has brought me so much healing. It's brought me so much of a sense of being not alone. And everyone will say, just like you said, they'll say, oh my God, I feel so seen, which in turn makes me feel very seen because somebody else sees me and says that they relate. And so I get that too. And that's a wonderful gift. And it's been nothing but a gift this whole time. So yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, friend. And I will definitely see you online because
awesome. Thank you so much. This is Bipolar.
Thanks again for tuning in. You can find video versions of This is Bipolar on our YouTube channel. We also have all our previous and soon-to-be future episodes of the podcast on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and Google Play. We spend most of our time on Instagram at this.is.bipolar. There is a vibrant community there where we have conversations and post different ideas and different strategies, and we'd just love for you to join us there. It is so helpful if you enjoy our work or think it would be helpful to someone if you could like and share and save and follow us in all or any of those spaces. If you're a listener for the podcast, if you could leave a review, we would be forever grateful. Again, thank you for being here with us. Let's get the word out. Let's share lived experiences so that we can change the ideas that people have about bipolar and help those of us that live with it feel less alone. This is Bipolar.